Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. Today, we're going to be taking a look at these current Lightspeed bundles, talking about what you should be doing. I've gotten a ton of questions from channel members, people in the Discord. Hey Phil, what should I do? I bought these bundles. Do I go right into Jabba? Do I go like this? Hey Phil, if I don't have the Zetas, do I go for Aphra? Do I ignore? We're going to talk about all that, and then of course, we got to talk about which bundles could come next. Because again, whenever these bundles drop, everybody wants to know, well Phil, what are we expecting next? What are you holding out for? So I'm going to go through some of the things I've seen, talk about the likelihood of that, and maybe open up some ideas that maybe we haven't thought of before, or even, you know, add in some fresh ideas for these bundles. So please like and subscribe, comment down below. Let's of course give a shout to our channel members for their continued support. If you're ever interested, link down below along with a link to the Discord. Thank you guys again for keeping the faith. Thank you for just continuing to be a part of this channel. I really appreciate every single one of you. Let's get in here. Let's talk about these bundles. Alright folks, so let's start out just with the Aphra bundle, right? That's the one that I purchased. So, Dr. Aphra, here's the situation. If you don't have these Zetas for her, right? And let's be clear on that. You need to have the Zetas available for her. If you can't spare the Zetas for her, then you definitely can't spare them for her requirements to get through that event. So, in that case, I would ignore Dr. Aphra. Right, you've got the requirements, I would wait until you're in a position where you have the ability to equip the rest of the Zetas that you would need, which would be on trip 0, the extra one for Hondo's helpful, and then obviously the one she needs for herself. Now, if you did buy this bundle, one thing I would recommend, if you have Dash Rendar, I would really consider putting that extra Zeta on Hondo, putting the Omicron on his unique here for Grand Arena, and I would slot him into that Smuggler team. I think Hondo is way too good of a character just to ignore. I think he makes a big difference, and so that is a character that I will definitely be putting into this Smuggler team. And right now, remember, he does have the Datacron. Right? Hondo Kron is active, so I do think that could be a really, really important... what's the wording here? I think that could be a really important addition to a lot of players' accounts to make sure that they're going to get the best out of them. So I really think that Hondo is the one character here that I'm looking at and saying, yes, go right in, equip that Zeta, equip that Omicron. Might be a little bit painful, but it's going to save you time in the long run. And then you can just focus on getting the mods you need for Hondo, because you've also got to think that this isn't just about getting the characters, but you've got to get their mods sorted as well. And I had trouble with their mods. Like, I don't even have all 60 mods on these guys. It's very problematic, you know, and I'm still catching up on other areas as well. So we've got a lot of work to do on my own account, and I'm trying to show that, hey, if Fat Phil has to do work, some of you may even have to do more, and that's okay. So don't be afraid to maybe hesitate on Dr. Aphra until you're in that position where you can get all of her Zetas, bare minimum, and maybe do some, you know, good modding for those characters. But Hondo is the one out of that bundle that, yes, let's get him up and running right away. All right, so let's talk about this Princess bundle. Listen, this is just a, hey, trying to go for Leia. A lot of players are going to say this is worth $10 just for Princess Nisa alone. I don't hate that, right? I don't hate it. I don't love it. Again, I'm not a big fan of some of these ones where it's more clearly designed at a very new galactic legend, but I understand the idea. They're trying to make some money. Hats off to them. Again, if you're not close to Leia and you're just buying this so you don't have to farm her, I'm not going to fault you for it. If you are in the middle of your Leia farm and this is something you purchased, then continue on. You know, like I wouldn't say that I would want you to necessarily go to your Ewoks now and start equipping Zetas or start equipping good mods. You know, the Ewok faction, unfortunately, just is not quite up there, particularly in the end game. Now, I don't even have all Relic Ewoks, but I can tell you that my Wampa will solo almost every single Ewok team in existence. Even with Tebow in there, the stealth just doesn't help them enough because eventually... they just start dying of sadness from those damage over times from assists, particularly Nessa. She'll end up just dying off. Now, of course, my Wampa is Relic 9, so take that with a grain of salt that maybe somebody with a Relic 3 Wampa might fail. So that team could potentially get you some holds, but only if you really have Zetas already equipped on those guys for some reason, other than Chirpa, right? So yeah, with this one, I wouldn't really do a whole lot. Jawas. Now, with the Jawas, again, remember, there's no Zetas required for this team, just Omegas. Again, Endgame players, this is just GP. For those of you in the earlier part of the game, this could be a really good tool to beat some of those Mon Mothma teams. And the reason why that can make a massive difference to an account, I can remember a time where if my opponent set Iden, my opponent set Mon Mothma, my opponent set, an Ewok team or something, and my Wampa at the time could have only beaten one of those teams, well, you'd have to figure out, okay, well, how can I beat Iden? No, I've got to use General Skywalker. Like, you start getting into this, oh, how do I beat that Mon Mothma team? How do I do this? Jawas are going to become part of that answer where you're going to be able to beat that Mon Mothma team, and that can potentially save you a counter down the road. I don't think it's always the greatest of banners, but it's a good tool to use, and a team that, like, you're not going to use them anywhere else. And I think a lot of players are still probably setting Mon Mothma in the earlier parts of the game, so this might be able to help with that. Again, I don't know if that'll work against Luthen or not. So, then we have the Tusken bundle. Now, the Tusken bundle is a little bit more interesting because there are 4 total Zetas in this faction. You've got 2 on Chieftain and 2 on Warrior. Now, they do give you the leadership on Chieftain, right? You do get that from this bundle, so you would only need to equip 3 Zetas. I think this faction is awesome. I've been very much debating, I'm not going to lie. I've been very much debating if this is if I should have get this bundle or not. The reason I'm cautious is because I've already spent, bought the Aphra one. It was, a bit pricier, so I don't know that I'm going to get this one. I would really have to get bullied into that. And I still have a few more days to think on that, I think. Yeah, so I still have a few more days, but, with that team, guys, I would highly recommend that that's going to be one of those teams that if you do get that, this can be really good on defense. This will cause some players to have to use some counters that otherwise maybe they don't want to use elsewhere. And that can pose just a lot of issues, especially, again, I think this is one of those teams that you set this in, your Chromiums and Erodiums. There's going to be players who have never seen a Tusken team. They're going to have no idea how to beat it. And it will get you holds for a little bit. Like, I think that'll be a nice temporary stopgap for you until you can figure out how best to use them. Or you bring them on offense, and they're going to allow you to beat teams that otherwise maybe you would have to use a more expensive counter to. Again, they're not the greatest team in the world by any stretch, but they are good, and they are something that you can definitely, take advantage of, right? So I like again, that's a bundle that I really do like. I think it's kind of been missing there in the game. So yeah, it's okay to, act on that. This Smuggler one, listen, I'm not going to lie. A lot of people are saying, Agnard's even said, he would buy this just for Outrider. I don't hate it. I'm not a big fan of this bundle. I don't think there's anything crazy here. Dash is already in the Starkiller bundle. Vandor, Nest, Kira, those are all great characters. The thing that kind of, I don't want to say sucks, but the part of here that you're ugh, is they give you Kira at Relic 5 and not Young Han. And the reason I bring up Young Han is because in territory battles here, on Corellia, there's the Get 3 mission that requires Kira and Young Han at Relic 5. So if this bundle included Young Han at Relic 5, I would tell you to go for it because it's going to get your guild event currency 3 immediately. Again, barring that you can complete the mission, but gives you that chance to do it. I think without that, I'm probably just going to say, if you really want this, go for it. Otherwise, this is the one that I was kind of the least happy about. Again, Outrider's great. If you really need Outrider and you're like, hey, I'm just going to do this, then I'm not going to fault you for it. It's a $20 price point. But if you do buy this bundle, I would not be afraid to go after Dash and Vandor Chewbacca Zetas. I think both of those characters are top tier, particularly Dash's, Omicron there, right? The Omicron is on his leadership and the Zeta is on his unique. So you technically don't need the Zeta to get to his Omicron. The Zeta absolutely helps that team, but the Zeta on Vandor combined with Dash Omicron is what makes that team a challenge to face in Grand Arenas. And to be perfectly honest, again, in those earlier parts of the game, Dash with Vandor can be a massive problem for players because if you don't have a way around taunts or, you're going to struggle a little bit, it can really cause problems for players where they're going to pull a much larger team to deal with that. And again, you kind of combine that with Hondo and all of a sudden you've got a really good Grand Arena team. So, don't be afraid to kind of go into that one right away. Otherwise, you can just kind of ignore those characters until you're ready to use them. Now, finally get to Jabba. So, a lot of players were in the middle of farming another Galactic Legend. Now they get Jabba. Here's what I'm going to say. you're going to have to look at the full picture here. And the full picture being, how close are you to all of Jabba's requirements? Because that gives you a good fair bit. But the one that's looming over your head is you still need Jedi Knight Luke. You would still need the Relic 8 on Han. You would still need, going through, I think you would still end up needing, I think, Fennec in here, right? Jawa. You know, there's still some, I mean, the Outrider one, which again, you could go purchase that. So there are some really good things in here, but there's a couple of characters that are missing that if you don't have them, there's still additional work to do. So I don't mind if you were like, hey, I got this, and now I'm just going to go immediately for Jabba, because any GL you were going for, you already were going to have to save 6 Zetas for the Galactic Legend. And when you look at the team that we oftentimes use for Jabba, you're going to be using Chrysanthemum, you're going to be using Skiffguard Lando, and you're going to be using Leia, and then either Boba Fett or Embo. Well, each of them only have 1 Zeta. So between Leia, Skiffguard Lando, there's 2 Zetas, and now you've got Embo and Boba Fett, who, Boba Fett you don't need the Zeta on. Embo, the Zeta, him not being able to be critically hit can be vital, particularly against some of those teams where they want to try and get Embo down. When you can critically hit Embo, it's a lot easier to deal with Jabba. So I do want to mention that point, but regardless, it's a very cheap Zeta team, and that's a big difference when you compare that to, say, Rebels with GL Leia, where, okay, fine, Leia and Jabba, that's a wash, but R2-D2 is 2 Zetas. Drogon is 2. If you're going to use Captain Rex in that team, that's another 2 Zetas. You know, I use Mon Mothma at times. She requires, I think, like 1 Zeta, because you probably don't need her leadership. But, you know, the Leia team does get pretty expensive with Zetas, or maybe you're going for, you know, Jedi, right? Well, Jedi Knight Luke has some Zetas that you need, or Cal, or Jedi Knight Revan. You know, there's a lot of Zetas that go into some of those Jedi teams. And, you know, and again, other Galactic Legends, that the Jabba team, realistically, is very cheap when it comes to Zetas on that team, because it's just 1 on each of his supporting units, depending if you're going to use Embo or Boba Fett. And Boba Fett, again, pretty optional. Embo, a lot better. You know, Boba's is definitely luxury. Embo's kind of enters into that, how difficult do you want your Jabba to be to take out sort of situation. So, with that said, guys, hopefully that gives you the ideas of how to use the Lightspeed bundles that you got, right? It's okay to table them if you're not ready for it, but I think the Jabba one could potentially put you closer to Jabba than other Galactic Legends, depending on what else you have built. If you don't have the other stuff, just table it, get through the GL that you're going to have in your hand, and then worry about Jabba. But if Jabba kind of puts you ahead of the game, I would not think twice about just going right in, trying to get him as soon as possible. Getting into that Smuggler's run too is going to be huge. So, now that leaves us with the question, well, what other Lightspeed bundles could they release? And there's one that I want to give a massive shout to, and that's going to be the Inquisitors. I think Inquisitors are going to get a bundle, again, it may be this time next year, right? We got Starkiller around this time last year. We just got Aphra, maybe Inquisitors kind of come up, you know, maybe May the 4th or something, right? But they're, you know, potentially coming in 2025. I think you can pencil in Inquisitors. I think that will be a team. And they, to me, kind of fit the same way that Starkiller does. The reason that you're going to, like the Aphra bundle is what Rey was, right? Remember, Agnards and I were kind of splitting these up, and the difference between Rey and Kylo. Rey, out-of-the-way farm that a lot of people just weren't doing because she doesn't lead anywhere. Kylo, one of the most popular Galactic Legends. Almost everybody went for Kylo first. So, hey, we're going to give you Kylo because everybody wants him. And, hey, we're going to give Rey away because nobody wants her. And I think the same thing was Aphra and Starkiller. Everybody farmed Starkiller. So, hey, we're just going to, here's a bundle. Everybody tells you Starkiller's good. You're going to buy it. Hey, here's a bundle for Dr. Aphra. Nobody really wants to farm her, but for $50, you can get her, you know, unlocked. I think the Grand Inquisitor is going to fit more into that Starkiller situation where that bundle is going to be one that people will buy because they know they need him, right? And that they give you those, you know, 5 Inquisitors at Relic 5. Then you go unlock your Grand Inquisitor. Then you got to get him up to Relic 7 to get to Reva. Like, I think that will cause some additional spending in the game there to get those characters unlocked, right? So I think Inquisitors is a big shout. The next one that I'm really looking at here is Malak. We got the General Skywalker bundle already. I think Malak could be next. And the reason I say Malak could be next is because it's going to be inadvertently a bundle for Jedi Knight Revan and a bundle for Darth Revan, because you'd get the characters required for them. and then you would get the ones you need for, then you'd get Jedi Knight Revan, and you get Darth Revan, have to gear them, and then you get Malak. Here's the one thing that makes me nervous with that. Bastila, HK, and, obviously Darth Revan himself, there are some requirements here for Leviathan that's some overlap, and I don't know how much they would want to do that. Again, not saying that that's going to be the perfect answer, but it is just in the back of my mind that Leviathan is still very new, and putting a bundle here to get these characters early could be potentially problematic for what they want Leviathan to be in the game. Now, fortunately, you would still have you'd still have Fury class and Darth Malgus gated behind Conquest, but that's getting easier and easier to overcome with some of the changes to the game, so just, bear that in mind that, I think part of the reason we haven't seen one of these is because Leviathan exists. Now, in terms of other characters, the one thing that I would say we really haven't gotten, well, we just got the R2-D2 bundle. It's those older Imperial troopers that we've never really gotten a bundle for. That you look like Veers, Stark, I think, Piet, right? Like that Imperial Trooper bundle. Now, I already have all of those characters, so I can't see it. But it was definitely kind of interesting that we didn't see some of those other Imperial troopers that are kind of required for our good friend Sith Eternal. We really haven't gotten a solid Sith Eternal Lightspeed bundle yet. I'm curious if part of that is because he has a lot of overlap with Lord Vader and the Leviathan, obviously some overlap with the Executor as well. So I think that's part of the issue we haven't gotten there, is he is a very good gateway to other things, and there's a good bit of overlap between other farms. But I could see them potentially releasing that Sith Eternal bundle. Now, the one that I heard the most common, that everybody's like, they need to do this, is one for Lord Vader, and particularly one for everybody's second favorite clone faction, the Bad Batch. I could 1000% see this happening, and I think Omega would be included in it. The Bad Batch is one of these factions that is fantastic. It's one of the best factions in the game. Right? They really are that good. For no PvE, for no PvP Omicrons, they are a fantastic team. They do a lot of really good stuff. And with Omega, they get into a whole nother weight class. Unfortunately, most players never build them because they're gated behind Lord Vader. They do a lot of great stuff. They're really good, but you're never going to build these guys unless you're going for Lord Vader because of how expensive it is from a Kyrotech perspective. Again, only one Zeta each, which is really nice, but the Kyrotech is brutal here. I think this Lightspeed bundle could do really well, and I think that would lead more players to get Lord Vader, because when you look through Lord Vader's requirements, a lot of these things kind of have been sold in other bundles there. Right? You think the big one here, Padme, well, she was released kind of they released a Lightspeed bundle to get Padme. Tusken Raider was released in a Lightspeed bundle. Embo has been released in a bundle. I don't think Echo has. Dooku definitely has been. Zam has been, I believe. Right? She was in the Mercenary one. Y-Wing was in the General Skywalker bundle, I believe. ARC Trooper wasn't in any. General Skywalker, they sold the bundle to get him. And then Nute Gunray was also in another Lightspeed bundle. So the one, when you look through this, most of these characters have been included in a bundle except for the Bad Batch. So that just makes me think that potentially we could get that because they're going to want to, capitalize on that and get players to invest their resources into a GL like Lord Vader. So that's just a couple that I think could be coming into the game. The last just situation I want to leave you guys with here. Again, I said this on stream, we don't know what's coming next, right? Nobody knows what's coming next. Nobody would have predicted that we were getting Jabba. We don't know when they're coming back, right? And that's, I think, the biggest thing is you don't know when this is coming back. The Starkiller bundle, right, I can't remember it has not been back very often. Like the Kaidimundi bundle, it has not been back that often. So I don't want to sound like a CG plant and say, "Oh, go buy these because you have to." But I need to keep reiterating this. You don't know when they're going to be back, and I don't want you to have, if you have the disposable income and it's just maybe it's back in a week or two or a month or two. We don't know when it's going to be back there. For all we know, this could be the last time they offer this Jabba bundle. So just be mindful of that when you're deciding whether or not to purchase, that there's a good chance that this could be the last time we see this bundle for a long time. That's the end of the video, folks. Let me know your thoughts down below. Please like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.